Now, last week, we introduced the idea of canvassing the text. So I'd like to take a moment and review, because I know some of you were not here last week, but we did have an activity that we're going to continue today, and that's going to be part of the reading activity that we started last week as well. So first off, let's talk a little bit about canvassing the text. So last week we learned about this very helpful process. Now, first off, can anybody tell me, what does canvassing the text mean? Anybody remember exactly what that means? Can anybody tell me? So think about what we did last week. What does it mean to canvass the text? Anybody?
Define the word and guessing the meaning, and
All
after
right.
that we can use the dictionary and
Okay.
explain the meaning, make the own sentence after
All
that.
right, Lily, that's really good. Fatiha, what do you want to say?
That's Fatiha talk. So I want to talk, but she say
That's me.
Exactly the same. Okay. Yeah, actually, you were almost 100% correct. There's one just small little thing, and that is, this is what we do before we actually try to read the text. So you were almost 100% correct. So the idea is, what I'm trying to teach students is, many times when we read, the biggest problem students have is understanding the words in the text. So this is a thing that I like to teach students, to look at the text before you actually really try to read it. Now, again, Sergey mentioned it's a very slow kind of thing. It's a very slow kind of process. And that's because right now, many of us in the class, we need more words. We need to learn more vocabulary. So what I like to teach students is, canvassing the text means we look at the text and we try to find words we don't know, we don't understand. Yeah, and then from there, so then from there, we try to guess the meaning if we can, or we use the dictionary, and sometimes we can do both. All right, so excellent. That was an excellent answer for us. Now, for the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about this active vocabulary learning process. So again, we're talking about how to be a better reader, but we also understand that to be a better reader, we need to be better with vocabulary. That's the most important thing for us. So again, for the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about this active vocabulary learning process. Now, again, I'm not going to review all of the process today, but we learned that canvassing means looking through the words, finding the words, trying to guess the meaning, and then, of course, the dictionary is important. But remember, I said don't put the dictionary at number 2. We're putting the dictionary at number 3 because we want to try to guess. We want to try to be active when we're reading. Now, of course, sometimes the writers don't give us enough information. Sometimes we cannot guess the meaning, and that's okay. Dictionaries are there to help us. But again, sometimes students, right, when we use the dictionary, we find the word and then we use the dictionary. What happens, guys? What happens if we make using the dictionary number 2 and not number 3 in this process? Can you remember?
We can forget the word.
We will not register it in our brain.
The picture, yeah, do you remember the picture I showed you? The words go in one ear and out the other. Yeah. Does that happen to us sometimes?
Yes.
Like when you're talking to your husbands, right? Maybe your children, right? Children, they're perfect. You talk to your children and they say, "Yes, Mom. Sure. I hear you." And then 5 seconds later, "What? Did you say something to me?" Yeah, so I mean, we know that's reality, right? Okay. So again, canvassing is a very important thing to help you specifically. Okay, now Last week, if you remember, I took part of chapter 1 in class from the story Marco Polo. Now, the Marco Polo story is in the Burlington English, and again, we will share that information after class today. And what I asked you to do was to find any words that you did not understand. Now, first off, most of you did the activity, so I want to thank you for that, because that was really helpful for me in doing today's activity, because I took that list of words. So you gave me lots of words. You guys gave me a lot of words, and that's good. Unfortunately, we don't have time to talk about all of those words. So I took about those words, and then I looked at what were the most popular 12 words. Which words appeared the most from everybody's list? So I tried to reduce it to about 12 words. Now, here's what we're going to do today. So we're going to go back to chapter 1 of the Marco Polo story, and we're going to try to describe, give me a definition to help us in understanding those words. Now, I'm going to apologize to everyone right now. We probably don't have time to do all 12 words. We're going to try to do as many as we can. Okay, so, and I know many of you have the same words. Okay, so again, there were 12. Well, as you can see, we have, 17, 18 students here today. So some people got the same words, and that's okay, because we want to hear from different people in the class. But again, our goal here is we want to explain the words. We've got definitions, but we want to explain them and also think about how do they work in the story. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and open up the activity we started last week. So hopefully you can see this now on your screen. So once again, we're going to continue. So think about what we're doing this morning. We started with the first 3 ideas. We found the words, right? You guys tried to guess the meaning or look in the dictionary. And now today we're going to think about number 4, which is how can we explain the meaning of these words, okay? So let's go ahead and begin, and I'm going to demonstrate with a couple of examples, okay? Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate with a couple of examples. So, for example, last week in class, we identified some words. For example, one word that we identified was the word brave. Okay, now everybody, you don't have to turn on your microphone, so don't turn on your microphones, but you can just repeat the word with me. Okay, so just say it together, brave. Okay?
Brave.
Yeah, so again, you don't have to turn on your microphone. You can just say it. Okay, now what does brave mean? Well, again, looking at the words, it says here, let's kind of read a little bit of the story first. I'm just going to highlight a couple of things, okay? So first off, I'll start reading a little bit, and then we'll think about the word brave. Now, I've got the definition on the screen, but let's think about it for just a moment. So it says, some say I'm the greatest traveler in history, but... Oh, I see that word but. What does that mean, but? But, when you hear that word but, what does that mean?
Um,
No.
What do you think, Miriam? What do you think?
I think
the
maybe
meaning,
yes, maybe no.
Okay.
the meaning that will come opposite for the
So maybe yes, maybe yes. So maybe it's the opposite idea. Good, Rihanna. So for example, some say I'm the greatest, but maybe I'm not. So in this case, that's what he says. I wasn't a brave adventurer. Now, when I see that kind of combination, greatest, right, and then not brave. So brave must be a kind of positive word. So when I look in the dictionary, it says that brave means strong or not afraid. So when someone is a brave person, they are not afraid to do things. Now, for example, what about you guys? Are you brave people? When you came to the United States, were you a brave person? Did you think you were going to try and new things and not be scared?
Of course.
yeah.
Of course.
I think so. I mean, I think it's pretty big to come to a new country and try to live. Now, are you a brave person if you see a snake or a spider?
Oh, no.
No, wait a minute. Some of you said, some of you said you were scared.
Yes.
Remember?
Spider, yes.
Okay.
Spider, yes. Snake, no.
Snake, no. Okay, so
No.
you're brave except for snakes, right? Is that true, Elaine?
killed a snake before.
Okay, well, so we're brave, what, 50% of the time? Okay, I like that. All right. Now, let me describe one more word. So, for example, we mentioned the word merchant. Okay, you can just, again, you can say it there at your computer. You don't have to turn on the microphone. Let's say it, merchant. Okay, it's just merchant, right? So, merchant, for example, could be a person who does business, often at sea, often using ships and boats. So if you notice, for example, in the story, Marco Polo is talking about how he lived in this city of Venice. Now that's going to be important in just a moment because there are a couple of words here I'm going to ask you about. But the word merchant, notice the word merchant is describing the word ship. So often in these types of stories, we would see that a merchant ship, business ship, taking things from one country on the ocean, on the sea, from one country to another. Okay, now, here are a couple of words, especially this word, this first one here. The word gondola. Everyone, let's say that. We'll say it in the plural, gondolas. Just practice it. You don't have to turn on the microphone. Gondolas. Okay. All right. Now, I think, I'm going to look at my list here. I think I gave the word to some people. All right. So who can tell me? So what do you think? Olena, let's see if Olena can help us. Olena, can you tell us what a gondola is? Are you there, Olena?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So what is a gondola? Can you tell me?
Gondola, it's a noun. Gondola's plural noun.
Uh-huh.
It means I found a few definitions.
Okay.
First definition, it's a lone and boat used of the canals in Venice.
Excellent. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's perfect. So it's a long boat. Okay, I like that. Excellent. Thank you. Now, of course, Elena, it's hard sometimes when we have to describe it. So, for example, what if we actually look at a picture? Sometimes a picture can help us. So I'm going to put this picture here on the screen. Aha! Is this what you're talking about, Elena? Is this a gondola?
Yes.
Have you been on a gondola before, Olena?
No.
No.
I haven't been. No.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have these in Kentucky, do we? Do you see these on the Ohio River? No, I don't think so. Yeah, Venice. So Venice is a city, right, that has lots of waterways. Now, of course, guys, pictures. Oh, see, we forgot. Pictures sometimes can help us too. But I like the way that we described it. It's a long boat. See how long it is? Has anybody been in a gondola before? Anybody in your country, anywhere? Maybe even in Disneyland? Maybe on Disney?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah. In Disneyland and in my country there is a river. We should take a gondola from this way to the other way.
Okay. Okay. Is it very fast?
No.
No, not
There is
really.
No. No.
Yeah, in fact, usually you see these in the city where the man is, pushing with the long oar there to help move the boat through the water. So in this case, yeah, it's not terribly fast. And then Elena mentioned the canals, right? The canals are those kinds of waterways. Now, again, a picture might help here. So let's put in a canal and let's see what one looks like. So I'll just put this one here. It's just a simple picture. Okay, so hopefully you can see now a canal kind of looks like just a little waterway, like a kind of a road, really. And again, those boats tend to go on the canals in Venice. All right, so as you can see, what we're doing here is we're talking through the vocabulary. We're using the definitions of the words, but we're also trying to explain them. So again, we talked about the word brave. See, we're brave people, right? We're brave people except for when there are snakes and spiders, right? Gondolas, for example. Gondolas are usually boats, like Olena said, that we see in Venice. We don't really see a lot of gondolas in other countries. We might use a different word, but in this case, a gondola is sort of like this kind of boat. Okay, now guys, we're off to a great start. I'd like to go ahead and move on to part 2 for just a moment. Now, again, in part 2, we had a couple of words that we were asking about last week. So, for example, again, you can just say it there at your computer or phone. Let's say this word, architecture. Just say it, just practice it, architecture. Okay. Now, some of you may know this word, but the problem was how to describe it. So, for example, architecture is a kind of study, like when you go to school, you study the design of buildings. So again, architecture, you go to school, you learn how to design, these beautiful places. Now, as I look at the list, so I'm going to move that off for just a moment. If I can move it. So there we go. I'll move it just a little smaller there. Okay, so in the first part of the article, or the first paragraph here on this first part, it says that he went to school. Okay, so I went to school, but the lessons were never enough for me. I was interested in every subject, languages, commerce. Okay, so let's see. Who can tell me about commerce? Let's see, Shiho. Shiho, did you find the word commerce?
Yes, it means buying and selling of goods or service.
Okay, so buying and selling. So it sounds kind of like business, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so for example, last week I heard somebody mention the word commercial. Yeah, so maybe you've heard that word commercial, right? So again, we'll put this on the screen. So now we know that commerce is buying and selling things. So for example, notice the subjects that he is studying: languages, business, right? Buying and selling, religion, animals. I'm curious what animals he's studying. Architecture, so like how to design things. That sounds like an interesting education. Did you guys study these things in school? Languages, commerce, religion, animals? Did you study any of these things in school?
Yes.
What languages did you study, Lilia?
French.
Okay, so probably a lot of people in the group, right? Yeah, okay. I'm curious, did anybody study animals?
Because I study biology. Yes.
Biology, yes.
Biology, yeah, kind of. Okay, I was curious what kind of animals we were studying. So I don't know, elephants. I don't know. Okay.
Frog.
Frog.
Yeah, that's always the big one.
In Morocco, we do frog.
It's always frogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always frogs. I don't know why. Okay. All right, let's continue. So again, as we're going through the story, again, let's keep going. So, okay, here's the next word that we circled: entirely. So first off, let's kind of pick up here. I wanted to know everything. So he was very interested in many things. I guess we could say he was curious, right? Remember this word? He was curious. So I made my poor aunt and uncle crazy, and they didn't know what to do. And then one day, when I was 17, I got a big surprise. It changed my life entirely. Entirely. Okay, so let's see. Who could help me with entirely?
Can I give you example, Mr.
Okay,
John?
give me an example.
He seemed tired, but reported that his trip has been entirely successful.
So what does entirely mean? How can we say it? So
Totally.
Sergey, yeah. So Sergey mentions completely.
Totally.
Okay.
Whole life.
Yeah, whole life. Okay.
Or completely.
Yeah. So
Completely,
looks like a lot of
totally.
people got it. Yeah, totally, completely. Okay.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for example, if we think about my entire life, right? So maybe we're going to be, maybe you're going to be in the United States for your entire life. Maybe. Okay.
The whole life.
Yeah, maybe. Sergey mentioned completely too, so good, Sergey. Okay. All right, so we'll put that note on the screen. Okay, I'll put that note there. So entirely means completely. Okay. I can spell it correctly. There we go. All right. Okay, so there we go. Entirely means completely. Okay, now, do you see what we're doing is we're going through the text, we're going through the reading, we look at these vocabulary words, and then the idea is we think about how do the words go into the story. So again, when we think about, for example, entirely, it means that his life, look at the sentence again. It says, and then one day I got a surprise. It changed my life entirely. So before, if we think about before he was 17, his life was like this. But then after this date, what happens after this date? His life is, you think it's going to be the same?
It changes.
Yeah, it's going to change. Yeah. Now think about you guys. Let's think about you all. Do you think your life is going to change when we continue to learn English and live in a different country?
Of
Yeah,
course.
sure.
Sure. I mean, absolutely. It's going to change.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
When we are leaving my home and coming to USA.
that's right. Yeah, so now our lives are maybe changing entirely too. Okay. I like it. Okay. All right. Now we've got time to maybe discuss one more word or so. So now, first off, I mentioned here on the screen the word recognize. This was a word someone had asked last week. When we recognize something, it means we remember and know it. So we can say this word too. Everyone, let's say it. Recognize. You don't have to turn on your mic. Just say recognize.
Recognize.
Yeah. So for example, as we continue reading, we see that Marco came home. Right, it says he came home from school on his gondola, right? So that's like kids riding their bicycle. Here he's taking the gondola, the boat. He goes into his house and he sees two men were waiting for him. They had beards, right? Maybe a little longer than my beard, right? I cut my beard, so it's not so long. And they wore colorful clothes. Now, maybe you're not wearing colorful clothes in COVID, but we're trying to look colorful, right? And it says, I didn't recognize them. What does that mean? I didn't recognize them. I didn't
Know them.
Yeah, they're not familiar. I don't know these people. So that's, yeah, so you see what I'm doing? I'm taking the words that I'm learning and I'm explaining them, but I'm also explaining them to think about the story. You see, the more we can explain and talk, the more we can begin to remember. We can remember these words, but we can also understand the story better. That's why it's so important. That's why, in my opinion, if we canvass the text first, we can find the words, look at the definitions, and then when we read the story, that information is already available. It's already ready. Then I can look and see how those words fit. Now, when I was a young Spanish student many, many years ago, remember, I didn't have smartphones. I didn't have computers. I only had a big dictionary. Do you remember dictionaries? Do you remember those big books? Yeah? Do you still have those big dictionaries?
Yes.
Yeah? Oh,
المورد.
yeah, that's amazing. Never use. Elaine, is the plastic. Do you still have the plastic on the dictionary? Okay.
I still keep it, but never use.
Well, I have many dictionaries here at the house, and I don't use them anymore either. But again, it was very difficult to try to read in Spanish because I would have to look at a word and then I'd have to go to the dictionary, right? I'd look at the word and go to the dictionary. Look at my head. You see my head? It's like watching tennis over and over and over. We call this ping pong. It's like yeah, it's like ping pong reading, right? And then finally, you're tired. Your head hurts. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do that. So that's why I think canvassing the text can help us before we read, because now we can understand the story better. Okay? Now, like I said, I apologize. We're not going to be able to describe every word, but don't worry. You are going to get a chance to share those words a little bit later. Okay? So don't worry. But I'd like to go ahead and move on. So again, in the story, again, we're talking about these different vocabulary words that you all identified. So, for example, some of you identified ambassador, emperor. So again, unfortunately, I don't have time to talk about all of them here this morning. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead for just a moment because I'd like to make sure we have enough time to talk about my next topic. Okay, so the vocabulary part is a very important part about being a good reader. Okay, and again, I really appreciate everyone here taking some time and looking at these new words. Now, if we have time at the end of class, we'll go back and discuss a couple of more words. But I'd like to go ahead and move on in this next topic. Okay, now, guys, we started discussing active reading about 2 weeks ago. But really, we've been talking a lot about vocabulary. That's because vocabulary is a very important part of active reading. But today I'm going to introduce you to the next part of this process, okay? So that's something I want you to think about as we kind of continue on. Now, don't worry, I'm going to ask some people to help me in just a moment. So let me read a little bit, and then I'm going to need some actors for this next part. So now today we're going to learn more about the active reading process. So again, understanding the vocabulary is only part of this process. It's just a part of it. It's a big part, but it's just a part of it. Now, do you remember we mentioned that active reading is how we take the things that we use when we're speaking to help us when we're reading? Do you remember that? Do you remember us talking about that? That active reading is using the things we do when we speak to help us be better readers. Do you remember when we talked about that? So do you remember when we discussed, yeah, so for example,
Yes.
if we didn't understand something in the conversation, what could we do? If you're talking to somebody, what can you do if you don't understand something?
Need to ask.
That's right.
Sorry, can you repeat
Think
it?
what you are mean.
Yeah, so maybe explain it. Could you repeat it? We can do things. Yeah. Now, of course, with the text, we said we can't really do that, but we can guess. We can guess the words. We can use the dictionary. We can try to be more active when we read. Now, today, I'm going to show you another part of this active reading process, and this is called think aloud. Everyone just say that there. Think aloud. Okay? Okay. All right. Now, what is thinking aloud? Well, let's explain, and then we're going to do a little story here. So, thinking aloud is when we take what's inside of our head and we actually try to speak it. So, we take what we're thinking and we try to talk. Okay, so let's watch for just a moment. Okay, so we're going to do a little acting here. So let's see, Fatiha, would you like to be the woman in this conversation? So she's on the left side. Okay, and then let's see. How about let's see, Tugba, would you like to be the man here, the blue part of the conversation?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So now we're always going to start on the left to the right. So Fatiha, you're going to start as the woman here. So can you read this first part for us?
Okay. First, put the bolt into the hole. I think it means here.
Okay. And then Tugba?
I guess so. Let me see the picture. Do you think they mean this leg?
Okay. Now, before we continue, has this happened to you guys before? Try to put together some furniture? Did you like go somewhere, buy the furniture, and then you have to put it together?
Yes.
Yes.
IKEA.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you guys know IKEA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's like 99% of everything at IKEA, right? You have to put it together. Okay, now, first off, if you notice the bolt is the picture you see here at the bottom. That's a bolt, okay? So that's a bolt right there, okay? So, and then she says, I think it means here, like in the picture, and the man says, I guess so. Okay, so now we understand, okay? So let's continue. All right, so let's continue. So Fatiha and Tugba, let's continue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Fatiha, you continue.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think so. Then I say to put the washer on the bolt. What's a washer?
Oh, you know, it's a round circle thing that you put between the bolt head and the board like this.
Okay, so if you see the picture here, the washer is that round part around the bolt. Okay, so again, he explains it. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so Fatiha.
Oh, I see. Do you put the washer on first?
Okay, Tugba.
Yes, that when they say put the washer on the bolt, they mean put the bolts on one side of the leg and put the washer on the other side, then the nut to make it tight.
Okay, now again, if you look at the picture here below, you guys are learning how to put furniture together here. So there's the bolt. Okay, there's kind of the leg, the board, and then there's the washer. The washer's that yellow and green thing. And then there's the nut. The nut is what we tighten it with. Okay? Okay, now thank you, Tugba. Thank you, Fatiha. So everybody, let's give them clapping,
Welcome.
clapping, clapping. Excellent job. Okay, now, did you notice how the couple, when they were putting this furniture together, that they were talking out loud, right? They weren't just thinking it, they were speaking. these particular steps. They were following the instructions. See, she's looking at the instructions there. He's trying to sort of help, right? But the idea is they're working together. They're talking out loud to try to build this piece of furniture. Now, I'm looking at this picture. Does anybody know what this is going to be, by the way? Anybody have a guess what they're building? What do you think?
A table.
I don't know. Maybe a desk, maybe a bed.
Or a clothing.
Maybe. I don't know. This looks like it's from IKEA, so it could be anything. I have no idea. Okay, so, but the idea is, do you notice how they were talking to each other? So, for example, did you notice when the man and the woman didn't understand something, they asked questions? So remember, she says, I think it means here. Like, I'm asking you a question. Is this what this means? Notice he says, do you think they mean this leg? So, for example, when they didn't understand something, they asked each other questions. Well, that's what we do when we're talking, right? When we don't understand something, we speak, and we mention those questions out loud where people can hear them. Okay, here's the next one. Now, when the woman did not understand a word, so like what we're doing, we were describing words. Like when we saw new words, I asked you guys to help me. So notice she said, what's a washer? I don't know this word. This is a new word. So her partner, just like we talked about before in conversation, the partner explained. He said, you know, it's that round circle thing. And he showed her maybe the picture. But he helped explain what the word means. Okay? Next, when the woman was perhaps confused about the order. Well, what was first? What was next? She said, do I put the washer on first? And then he said, well, yes, then you do this. So he explains a kind of process. He takes that little information, put the washer on the bolt, and he kind of helps put it into different words. He uses other words to explain the process. Okay? Now, everybody, what I have just shown you today, this is what you can do when you're reading. When you're reading. Now, it's not easy to do that when you're reading, especially if you're just reading by yourself. You might say, Mr. John, that seems a little crazy to talk to myself. Am I going to talk out loud and talk to myself? Well, maybe yes, maybe no. But the idea is good readers, readers who have experience, that's what they do. In fact, that's what you do in your language. You kind of think while you're trying to read to understand information. So what I'm trying to show you here this morning is that a think aloud, this idea of thinking aloud, is how we can talk through the reading. Many people just think of reading as moving my eyes, right? And keeping my mouth closed. That's not reading. That's just moving my eyes. Now, sometimes I like to read at night when I'm reading a book before I go to bed. So I have my book in front of me and I just move my eyes. And then what happens? I fall asleep. So that's what happens to you sometimes, right? You're trying to read, maybe you fall asleep. So what I'm trying to show you is when we have difficulty, just like the couple, when they were building the desk, we can think out loud. We can think, we can use words to help us. We can talk out loud. So remember, experienced readers, they know how to do this. You know how to do this in your language. I'm trying to show you how it can help you in English. So now, we are not experienced in English. We need more practice. That's the idea. So Sergey mentions like a brainstorming. That's a perfect way to put it. Now, Saba mentions you can do this in front of the mirror. I don't know, Saba. Some people like to look at themselves too much in the mirror, right? So you start talking to yourself in the mirror, Saba, then you start thinking about your hair, right? Your eyes. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe a mirror may not help. I don't know. But the idea is we're going to show you how you can practice this by practicing with another person, okay? Now, some of you might remember we did this in the classroom last year. We practice with other people. Of course, it's a little more difficult to do online, but I'm going to demonstrate a little bit, and then we're going to try it. We're going to try it next week, okay? So I'll talk about that in just a moment. But let me demonstrate, okay? So in this activity, you all of you are going to be my partner. Is that okay? Is it okay if you be my partner in this activity?
Yeah.
Would you like that? Okay, so Gisela says yes. So if she says yes, then everybody must say yes. Okay, I like it. All right, now let me just show you just a moment. Notice what I do. I do many of the same things that the couple did in the discussion. So for example, I'm going to go back to maybe not part one. Let's go back to, let's see, maybe, how about this? Let's go back for just a moment. Sorry, guys, don't get sick. I'm going to go back here. Since we didn't, yeah, just close your eyes for a moment. Okay, how about here? Okay, so let's start here. This was talking about the two men who came to visit him, right? Now, if you remember, those two men turned out that one was his father, right? Remember, that was the idea. But I'm going to demonstrate this think aloud. And notice I'm going to be the person reading it, but I'm going to be asking you for help, okay? So let me just demonstrate for just a couple of minutes, okay? So the two men crossed the Tigris River. The Tigris River. This must be a river in some country, right? Does anybody know the Tigris River?
In Turkey.
Turkey. Oh, there we go. See, I've got help here. Thanks, guys. And rode on horseback. On horseback. Horseback. Does that mean on the back of a horse? You think?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe riding a horse for 17 days.
Wow.
Do you think they stopped once in a while? Do you think they just did 17 days straight, continuously, no stopping?
No, maybe stop.
Oh, of course.
Yes, maybe stop. Yeah.
I hope so. I mean, come on, that horse has got to be tired, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Until they came to, I think, Bukhara. I don't know.
Bukhara?
Anybody know how to pronounce that? Bukhara?
Bukhara.
Bukhara? I don't know.
Bukhara, yes.
Anybody know? Okay, well, we'll guess. Okay. And Uzbekistan. Okay, so again, these are countries, not America, right? These are other side of the world. There in Uzbekistan, they met an ambassador. Okay, now this was one of our words. I don't know this word ambassador. Can somebody tell me what an ambassador is?
Person
who
represents his
Government word.
Who had this word?
Me.
Me.
Is a person?
Okay. Well, let's see. Gisela, would you like to share first?
Yeah. As an important official who represents his or her government in a foreign country.
Okay, so who represents a foreign a country in a foreign country, represents a government
In a foreign country.
in a foreign country. Okay, is that correct? Everybody else?
Yeah.
Did you find that definition?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So ambassadors. Do we have ambassadors today? Do we still have ambassadors?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So do we have ambassadors? Every country.
Yeah.
It has a lot of ambassadors.
Okay. Does Kentucky get an ambassador?
No, I think USA have ambassadors to other countries.
Other country.
United States have ambassador in my country. Every country have ambassadors who represents other countries.
That's right. You said foreign country. So, for example, Cincinnati doesn't have an ambassador to Kentucky, do they?
No.
See, I mean, come on, it's just across the river there. But okay, so it's a foreign country. Okay, okay.
Strange country.
Yeah, from a different place. Yeah, from a foreign country. Okay, so ambassadors. So they met an ambassador for the great Mongol. Anybody have any idea? Mongol. Is this from like China or where is it Mongol from?
It's in the east.
It's Mongolia.
Mongolia,
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Here was another one of those new words. Emperor.
Emperor. It's me. It's the person.
Wait a minute, Saba, you're the emperor? Wow.
Yeah. No, it's not.
It's the
Not
ruler.
me. But I have this word.
Okay. Well, tell us what it means.
It's a man who rules an empire.
It is the ruler.
It's a ruler.
Okay, I hear ruler. Okay. Now wait a minute. What's an empire? If it says emperor, what's an empire?
Empire. It's a great, country. In an empire, there is a lot of countries. Nowadays, it's
Okay, okay. So that's a good start. An empire represents maybe many different places or
places.
lands.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, okay. All right. Does anybody else, for emperor, anybody else have any other information, or is that pretty much what you found?
I have guess.
Or Kaiser.
Okay.
Who ruled the empire, and is the king, and then is the imperator.
Okay.
Monarch.
Okay, I see. Well, Sergey, for example, put king, so sort of like a king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe like a king. Okay.
No,
Okay.
it's more than king.
You think
Empire
bigger than a
is
king?
more than king. Yeah.
So something like a king but bigger.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so the emperor, like from many different.
Like he has a lot of colonies, and his empire of all of these countries.
Okay. Now, am I like the emperor of this classroom?
Yes, yes, sure.
Am I Emperor John? Should you call me Emperor John now?
No.
I think I like this. Okay. Okay. So starting next week, everybody call me Emperor John. I like that. Okay. All right. Now, what I want to show you, what I wanted to show you is I took a little bit of text, a little bit of information, and I asked you guys to help me. If you noticed, sometimes if I did not understand a word, I asked you for help. Now, of course, I'm hoping that you would know the answer. So you helped me with 2 of the words, but you helped me with other things too. I asked you questions about the meanings of these words. When they say for 17 days, I asked you, do they mean 17 continuous days? And you said, no, probably they stopped. But did you notice I was talking? I was reading the story, but I was also talking to you. That's what active reading is. You see, now I can remember some of this information better. I can think about that they were riding on these horses for a long time, and they went to this other country, and they met some official, some representative from this great empire, which, by the way, Kublai Khan, maybe you've heard of Kublai Khan, is a very famous historical figure. So already I can see that active reading helps me in understanding information, and it helps me remember the information better. Because that's the idea. Reading is not just moving my eyes. Reading is understanding and remembering the information that I'm seeing. Okay? Now, guys, what I've demonstrated here today is something we're going to try in class next week. We're going to try to do some active reading in class next week. Now, I'm a little nervous because this is the first time we're going to try it in this online environment, okay? But you know what? I'm brave. I'm going to try it, okay? Are we brave people? Are we going to try? Are we going to be ready to try this next week?
Yes, yes,
sure.
we
Are we brave?
Yes,
Is everybody brave?
yes, we are.
Excellent. Okay, excellent. So everyone, so Asami, Bune, Singli, we're all brave people, right?
Right.
Yes? Of course
Yes.
we are. Absolutely.
Yeah, brave.
We are brave. I like it. Okay. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much for joining us here this morning. So what I'd like to do after class here is I'm going to send you a little vocabulary activity. And these vocabulary activity, this activity will involve the words we talked about here today and some of the words that we did not talk about. So some of you had looked up some of those words. So that will give you a chance to share some of that information in this activity.